ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన NSR ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ NSR ఇంపల్స్.
Let us continue. So apart from all the physiological effects, auxin also controls xylem differentiation and cell division. Okay, so auxin will control. Suppose huge plant is there, then it has to produce with more xylem, more trachees are needed, more vessels are needed, but xylem fibers are very few is needed. At that time what happens? Auxin will control the cell division of the xylem and it differentiates more cells into tracheids and vessels and very few cells into xylem fibers and parenchyma. So xylem differentiation, whenever you get the question that in xylem differentiation who plays a vital role, means you have to take it granted that it is auxins, because auxin makes the xylem cells to undergo cell division and makes the xylem cells to undergo differentiation. Similarly, apart from this, if you take auxins induces parthenocarpy. What is parthenocarpy? So here from the female flower, if there is a formation of fruit without fertilization, without cell division, then the process is said to be parthenocarpy. I repeat again, the female flower without fertilization, meaning what? Without fusing with the pollen grain, female flower without fertilization and without cell division, it will not undergo any cell division, directly develops into fruit, then that process is said to be as what? Parthenocarpy. So if you spray, if we spray auxin externally, then that induces what is called parthenocarpy. So that you can take example, you can take tomatoes, and along with that even you can take cucumber. So this all will come under what? Parthenocarpy. So we say auxins induces parthenocarpy. What is parthenocarpy? You all have studied in first year. A female flower without fertilization and without cell division directly develops into fruit. So you can take example tomatoes and cucumber. Right. Now apart from this, so if you take here, apart from this you can also say auxins are also responsible for, auxins act as herbicide. What is a herbicide? Herbicide means which kills the herbs, which kills the herbs. Here, so auxins act as herbicide means which kills the herbs, it's called as herbicide. So here the best example is 2,4-D PAA. What is this compound here? 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid. Phenoxyestic acid. So here you can take 2,4, at the second carbon chlorine is attached, At the 4th carbon also chlorine is attached, 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid. That means this is used for weed control. Weed control, in what way it is used as weed control? It kills dicotyledon weeds. It kills dicotyledonous weeds, but does not kill mature monocotyledonous plants. What's the meaning of this? So if you take 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid. So this 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid used for weed control. Some component of 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid used to kill herbs. That's why it is also called herbicide. And in some cases this compound also used for weed control. What are weeds here? Weeds are nothing but unnecessary plants. What are weeds? Unnecessary plants, not useful for any purpose. Right, these are called weed control. So why it is called weed control? When you spray externally 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid, then it kills dicotyledonous weeds but does not kill mature monocotyledons. What's the meaning of this? Here we say that suppose in the field, so here you can take, we find rice is there, bajra, jowar, all is there. Rice, let us take, this is totally a rice plant row. This is totally a rice plant row. Rice is a monocot. Monocot is a plant required for yield. Rice is a monocot. Monocot is required for yield. In between who is there? Some dicotyledon plant is there. So whenever you apply 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid, it will kill the dicots but does not affect the monocots. Monocots will survive and they give what is called as yield. They survive and they give what is called as yield. So this is nothing but herbicides. So it kills dicotyledonous weeds, means unnecessary weeds of dicots are removed and killed and controlled, but does not affect the mature monocots. Does not affect the mature monocots. So here auxin induces, so here rooting on stem cutting. Auxin induces rooting on stem cuttings. What's the meaning of this? Root formation is taken care by whom? Auxin. Where? On stem cuttings. Auxin induces root formation on stem cutting. Best example, on the other day succus we studied Rosa indica, or we can take jasmine, right, nerium, and all these cases. If you take the jasmine, right, very common example. What happens in the jasmine? So this upper branch will touch the soil wherever it is. Stolons and succus in morphology we discussed, right. So in case of stolons, whenever it touches the soil and there it establishes what is called adventitious roots, we cut it here and put it in the soil. When you cut the branch and here it establishes what are called adventitious root. This grow as again a new plant. So whenever you cut the branch or the stem, if you put it in the soil again, root formation happens. It's because of what? Auxin. Auxin induces rooting on stem cutting. So stem will be cutted and placed in the soil, adventitious roots are produced, and this adventitious roots are produced, it is all because of auxin. I hope this point is clear. Auxin induces rooting on stem cuttings. When you cut the stem of jasmine or rosa, put it in the soil, once again roots will form, again develops into a new plant, it is all because of auxins, right. Let us continue further. Auxins, not only this, auxins also helpful for making the what you call abscission. We can take abscission, right? Apart from this, sex permissioning effect. What is the meaning of this? What is meant by sex permissioning effect? That is nothing but sex determination of plant. Sex determination of plant. Mostly for formation of female flowers. Mostly for the formation of female flowers. So we discussed example pineapple. What did we discuss? In pineapple, auxin is involved in the formation of what did we say? Female flowers, right? So here sex permissioning effect is nothing but sex determination of the plant. If you want more yield, if you want more grains has to be produced, then you will allow on the plant, apart from the having the anthers, more will be of female flowers. It will be like this. More will be having a female flowers. Very rarely, very few will be having a male flowers. This is only one male, but there are so many female flowers. So that is called permissioning effect. That's called permissioning effect. Sex determination of the plant can be studied, can be made on making the plant not to produce male flowers, making the plant to produce only female flowers. That's possible again with the impact of auxins. And auxins mainly contributes for abscission. Abscission is nothing but what? You know that breakdown of tissue or fall off of mature organs. Mature organs fall off. So what's the meaning of this? Abscission, breakdown of tissue, or you can write mature organs fall off. This is nothing but total story for auxins. We discussed all the physiological effects of auxins, you have to remember. This is nothing but totally auxins. Gibberellic acid. Let us talk about next one after auxin. Let us discuss about what? Gibberellic acid. So if you talk about the gibberellic acid, this gibberellic acid was studied by the scientist Kurosawa and other two scientists Ebuta and Sumuki. Okay, the gibberellic acid was being studied by Kurosawa, Ebuta and Sumuki. So if you take these two this combination of scientists, they discovered and studied about gibberellic acid. Now gibberellic acid synthesized Ga, I am writing Ga, Ga is nothing but gibberellic acid, synthesized by gibberellic acid synthesized by acetyl CoA. Okay, gibberellic acid is synthesized by, but you can write precursor of acetyl CoA. What's the meaning of precursor of acetyl CoA? For the formation of acetyl CoA, if the acetyl CoA is produced from the proteins, then proteins will become precursor for acetyl CoA. If carbohydrates are produces acetyl CoA, carbohydrates will become precursors. So who synthesizes Ga? Gibberellic acid means gibberellic acid is synthesized by precursor of acetyl CoA. Very, very important. Now, with what test you can identify gibberellic acid? Now, gibberellic acid can be identified by It is easily identified by dwarf mutant test. Dwarf mutant test. What about the auxin? Avena curvature test. For auxins, for identification and isolation of auxins, it is Avena curvature test. Similarly, for the identification and isolation of gibberellic acid, it is a dwarf mutant test. Okay, so we take the dwarf varieties, we apply gibberellic acid, maybe they may be mutants, mutations has made the plant to become dwarf. So, dwarf mutant test is a possibility for identification and isolation of gibberellic acid from different plants. Right, let us come to discovery. How this scientist has discovered about gibberellic acid. Let us talk about discovery part. So, in the discovery part, Kurzweil is a scientist who identified a foolish rice seedling disease. Foolish rice seedling disease caused by fungi, also called Buckin disease. I repeat, what's the meaning of this? So, who identified, who discovered gibberellic acid? We are talking about what? Discovery part. In the discovery part, who discovered means the effort goes to the scientist Kurzweil. What Kurzweil was studied? Kurzweil identified a foolish rice seedling disease, or we call a Buckin disease. What's the meaning of foolish rice seedling disease? So, when he saw the rice plants, a rice plant is produced with bigger grains. So, this is the one which has more bigger grains. So, when more bigger grains are there, so they thought it may be because yield is more. So, here bigger grains or bigger yield. So, they thought that maybe inside the big yield, more yield is appearing outside, where in rice plant when grains are about to form, it is appearing so big. So, they thought bigger yield means maybe we are getting more yield from the plant. But later when they saw here inside the grains, if you look at, it looks that very tall, but inside the grains are very, very small. Inside the grains are very, very small. Excuse me. So, what are we seeing here? The grains are in bigger size, but inside the grains are in very small size. Yield looks so big. Yield was appeared very big. So, they thought more yield is coming. But inside the grains, very, very small seeds are there. So, they could not able to understand why yield looks so big, inside the grains are why they are small. So, later they understood that is why it was given with the name called Buckin disease. It was given with the name called Buckin disease. Why it is called Buckin disease? It is given because it is also referred as foolish rice seedling disease. Foolish means people, it made the people to fool. Why? The people thought, oh, more yield is coming, so I will get more grains. But inside the yield, when they saw, very small grains are there. Some are empty without grains. Some are empty without grains. So, they thought that okay, earlier they expected so much of yield is going to come, but after that they were highly disappointed. So, they thought they understood that it is because affected by a fungi. It was affected by a fungi. Later, so another scientist, a combination of two scientists, who are they? Ebuta and Sumuki. These two people, they have taken sterile filtrates. They have taken what? Sterile filtrates. Sterile filtrates They took the sterile filtrate, meaning what? From the rice plant, they took the sterile, what you call the paste of this rice grains. They took, they extracted, they filtered. So it's called sterile filtrates they took from the rice plant. They took from the rice plant and they discovered it's not only because of the fungi, and the fungi it's nothing but Gibberella fusiculae. Gibberella fusiculae. It's nothing but a perfect stage of imperfect fungi. What is that? Fusarium moniliforme. Fusarium moniliforme. Very, very important. Try to remember the name, that's enough. Until what I'll come again from the beginning. Kuruswa. What is Kuruswa identified? Kuruswa identified Buckin disease or foolish rice seedling disease. What is that? Yield appears so big, but inside the grains were not there. If they are present, also very, very small. So what Kuruswa identified and discovered? It's because of the disease, Buckin disease, and it is caused by fungi. Until here it was a discovery made by Kuruswa. But after that, the same experiment is continued with Ebuta and Sumuki. These two scientists, they took sterile filtrate from the rice plant. They take the filtrate from the rice plant and they saw it is because of the fungi called Gibberella fusiculae. What is the Gibberella fusiculae? It's nothing but a perfect stage of imperfect fungi. What is that imperfect fungi? Fusarium moniliforme. Imperfect fungi Fusarium moniliforme that shows a perfect stage called Gibberella fusiculae that was responsible for causing the rice disease. So here imperfect fungi means immediately what you have to remember? You have to remember what is called as Deuteromycetes. You remember who is the imperfect fungi? It belongs to the class called as Deuteromycetes. This is how they studied what is called Gibberellic acid. What has made the bigger yield to appear? It's because of Gibberellic acid. Where this Gibberellic acid is produced? From the fungi. Who is that fungi? Gibberella fusiculae. What is this? It's nothing but a perfect stage of imperfect fungi Fusarium moniliforme. Right. Now let's continue about what is the function of Gibberellic acid. So what is that? Physiological effects of Gibberellic acid. One second. Right. So here what are the functions? What are the functions of Gibberellic acid? Let's talk about this. The very first one, I am just writing here Gibberellic acid. The very first one is removal of dwarfism. Removal of dwarfism. Dwarfism is dwarf plants. So if Gibberellic acid is sprayed externally, then there is a removal of dwarfism, especially if you take genetically mutant varieties. Genetically mutant varieties. What are the genetically mutant varieties? For example, let us talk about pea plant and maize plant. Pea plant and maize plant. Actually they are genetically they are dwarf plants, Mutant varieties means because of mutations they develop as dwarf plant, right. Genetically mutant dwarf varieties such as pea and maize, they are dwarf plant. So what do we do now to these plants? If gibberellic acid is sprayed externally, if gibberellic acid sprayed externally, then so here these two plants they can become what are called tall plants. They grow in size, they grow in height, or they grow in length. When do they grow in height and length? Whenever gibberellic acid is sprayed on them, definitely they grow in height or they grow in length, and they have the possibility of to become what are called tall plants. So gibberellic acid helps in removal of dwarfism. I repeat again, especially genetically mutant varieties if you take pea and maize. In this, if gibberellic acid is sprayed externally, then they grow in height and length and they will become what are called tall plants. So coming to gibberellic acid here, gibberellic acid people have identified, discovered so many gibberellic acids like GA1, GA2, GA3 like that. So many gibberellic acids are identified, but whenever you get the question that the first isolated gibberellic acid is gibberellic acid 3. What is that? C19 H22O5. Very important. Okay. So there are so many gibberellic acids are being identified. What are they? GA1, GA2 and GA3. There are so many gibberellic acids are identified. But whenever you get the question that the first one what is identified, later they kept as a third one. So what is that? The first identified gibberellic acid, whenever you get the question, take that it is gibberellic acid 3, it has given the name. What is that gibberellic acid 3? That is C19 H22O5, C19 H22O5, right. So here apart from this you have to remember all gibberellic acids are acidic in nature. All gibberellic acids are acidic in nature. So all are acidic components what we are talking about here. Now in that what is the main function? First function, removal of dwarfism. Second one, rosette and bolting. Rosette and bolting. What's the meaning of rosette? For example, you can take cabbage and cauliflower. Cabbage and cauliflower. What happened in these two cases here? So at the time of formation of the flower bud, so here flower bud or leaves are produced with condensed peduncle. Condensed peduncle. As condensed peduncle is there, peduncle is highly condensed, as a result they form what is called as rosette arrangement. You know it very well. We already have discussed this part at the time of inflorescence. You know in cabbage and cauliflower you find highly condensed peduncle. What is peduncle? The present arrangement of buds. Arrangement of buds on the main axis is called peduncle. Peduncle gets condensed. All leaves appears as if they arise from the common point, and that arrangement is called as what? Rosette arrangement. Where do you find rosette arrangement? Cabbage, cauliflower. So what happens in these cases? Flower bud or the leaves they produced on condensed peduncle. Then what is bolting? So here suppose if the rosette arrangement is there, then what we do here? Bolting means here we spray gibberellic acid, or that gibberellic acid causes increase in internode elongation, increase in internode elongation just prior to flowering or flowering or reproduction. Okay, so whenever gibberellic acid is sprayed, to the rosette arrangement, whenever gibberellic acid is sprayed to the rosette arrangement, then what it will do? It causes increase in internode elongation just before to flowering. Itself is called bolting. Means before flower formation, before the season of reproduction, if gibberellic acid is sprayed, then there is an increase in node. That suppose if you take this is a plant or this is a leaves or this is a peduncle having this, then internodal, this is a node, this is node. This will get elongated. So after some time what happens? This will become like this. Internode elongation. Node will get increased, internode space will get increased. Who is responsible for internode elongation? So here gibberellic acid can be responsible. Then rosette arrangement, condensed peduncle will get elaborated. There is an increase in internode. It gets spread with the leaves and flowers. That is what is called as bolting. I repeat, rosette. So you can take cabbage, cauliflower. You know that flower bud or leaves are produced on the highly condensed peduncle. In such rosette arrangement, suppose if gibberellic acid is sprayed, then it causes increase in internode elongation just prior to flowering or reproduction, and that is called as what? Bolting. That is referred as what? Bolting. Right. So rosette and bolting. Next is Denovo synthesis. What is Denovo synthesis here? Gibberellic acid synthesizes a very important enzymes. What are they? Hydrolytic enzymes. What are hydrolytic enzymes? Like alpha amylase and protease. Where they will get synthesized? These are get synthesized in aileron cells of aileron layer of barley grains. Okay, so here you can talk about, again I will repeat, what is that? If gibberellic acid is supplied, what gibberellic acid will do? Gibberellic acid synthesizes hydrolytic enzymes. What is de novo? De novo means it will synthesize. Novo means new enzymes. Till that enzymes were not there. Now a synthesis of enzymes is taking place. New enzymes, it is called de novo synthesis. Synthesis of new enzymes. Earlier they are not there. That is called de novo synthesis. So gibberellic acid synthesizes hydrolytic enzymes. Which hydrolytic enzymes? Alpha amylase and protease. Where do they get synthesized? In the aileron layer of barley grains. In the aileron layer of barley grains. You know barley is nothing but monocot. Monocot, it is nothing but monocot seed has an aileron layer. Yes or no? Proteinaceous aileron layer that has alpha amylase protease enzymes, which are hydrolytic enzymes. Who synthesizes them? Gibberellic acid. So here I repeat again. So what are physiological effects of gibberellic acid? Removal of dwarfism. P and maize, it removes the dwarfism, forms the tall plants. Rosette and bolting. What is rosette? Cabbage, cauliflower. You know flowers and leaves are formed on the condensed peduncle. Few gibberellic acid is added. It causes internodal elongation. Prior to flowering or reproduction, it is called bolting. What is de novo synthesis? Gibberellic acid synthesizes hydrolytic enzymes, alpha amylase protease, especially in the aileron layer of barley grains. Still we have some more physiological effects of gibberellic acid is there, that we will discuss in the continuation of the class.